But George, this one's a different Nigerian prince.
Stop believing the email from the Nigerian prince. Any of them. They're not telling you the truth. Back in a minute. How long ago was it? 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
I guess.
I had Reverend Al Sharpton on my program, did a full hour. I think you were one of the first full-hour guests that I had. And I'll never forget, because I had just gotten into television. And he said, whose handwriting? In the commercial, he said, whose handwriting are you notes? And I said, you remember this? And I said, me. And you said, you write your own questions?
Yeah.
And I was stunned that people in television didn't write their own questions. And we've had a couple of hours together of good conversation. You and I disagree on everything or almost everything?
Everything.
Everything. But I think that principles both play a role in our lives. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, first of all, you're coming in for a convention, or you've got a convention, national convention here, April 14th and 17th here in New York City.
Right.
And that is on the state of race and faith and everything else, right?
Okay.
No, is that right?
That's what the convention is about, yeah. 3 days to deal with all of those issues, yes.
Would you agree that this country is as divided as it has been in a long, long time?
I think that it is divided politically. I think there's still some institutional divide that we've got to challenge. But I also think that in some levels there's been coming together in other areas. I think it has shifted. I mean, is there polarization? Yes. Is there inequality? Absolutely. And you and I might disagree with that. But I'm not going to say that I don't.
You and I disagree, Reverend Sharpton. When the IMUS thing was happening, I said, where are you on rap music? And you said, I'll go and march in front of rap music. And I said, you do that, and I'd be standing next to you. You know I don't agree with boycotts, but I walked with you because we united on principles. So you and I think, disagree on the way to get there.
Right, okay.
Here's where I'm wondering if we could come together. This show has been, we're making it this year about faith, hope, and charity. That's what originally united America together. Faith, different faiths, but a belief in God. Hope, the truth. The truth shall set you free. And charity, being good to each other. Would you agree that that approach, not about politics or policies, but principles, faith, hope, and charity, can unite America?
Yeah, I agree. I think that it could and should unite America. But I think, as we've had in the past, you have to have an honest discussion of where people approach their hope, faith, and charity from. And if people approach them from different environments and different circumstances, then we've got to also be realistic about some may need more charity than others, some may need more hope than others.
No, hang on just a second. You're going to the system. I'm saying
I'm going to the execution. You're going through the internal, the character part.
Yes.
Yeah, and I agree
I'm not talking about it, because when you have people who tell the truth, when you have people who revere God, and when you have people who are charitable in their hearts, everything can be solved. May not be 100% to your liking or my liking, but we can solve things.
Right.
Would you agree?
I agree with that.
Is that the principle? Because I was thinking about this today with you. You were at Martin Luther King's elbow.
No, I was after King. I worked more with Jackson and others.
You never I were not walking with
King. No, Mrs. King.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And Martin. I'm only 55. I was 13 when King was killed. But I came up by the lieutenants of the King movement. And I think with Martin Luther King, who probably a lot of people disagreed with vehemently. On my Twitter, I get all kind of tweets about, you think Dr. King was everything to everybody. But with Dr. King stood for, I think, outlasted even the politics of that time. And I think that's what you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking.
There's some basic stuff that outlasts you and I. We have some vehement disagreements,
Absolutely.
but principles will outlast both
Correct.
of us.
There was something a friend of mine gave me today, and I wrote it down. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. This has really been your mantra. You believe in certain things, and you're not going to stay silent. How do people navigate? Because I believe things that matter to me, and I want to say them. And other people, millions of people, Tea Parties, et cetera, are finding themselves in a place where they've never been before. And they kind of feel, I think, in some ways, like Martin Luther King or those people that stood up and said, no, I believe this to be true. How do you
Well, I think how you do it is, one, you have to honestly ask yourself, if you really in your heart of hearts feel that you've got to express yourself, did you understand that when people like King, or even later years, people like me stood up? When I look at some of the Tea Parties who I disagree with vehemently, but I defend their right to express themselves.
Likewise.
I would also say to them, now do you understand why some of us expressed the outrage we felt?
Absolutely.
And a lot of people are not benevolent there. They're saying, well, or not fair.
There's
not
a
even
lot of
benevolent.
people, you know Roger Ailes, who runs this network.
Yeah.
He did walk with Martin Luther King.
He did.
I mean, there are people, I mean, I wasn't.
But he and I disagree too, but he doesn't disagree with the right of expression. What I'm saying is that you have the right to express yourself, even though you and I may not agree on anything.
Exactly right.
I have the right to express myself. Now, once we get through the expressing, do we really move forward in society
As we want
and make it fair?
Yeah.
And that's where I think we've got to argue out the techniques of doing that.
Right. And I think if we come to the table with faith, hope, and charity, even people as different as you and I on policies, if we're honest brokers, can make a difference.
I think that if we come with faith, hope, and charity, we can. The only thing that shows our differences, I probably would change some of the pictures who would represent the faith, hope, and charity. But we'll leave it there.
No. Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks.
Well, let's have some revolving pictures. Let's have more diverse symbols of faith, hope, and charity, Mr. Beck.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Al Sharpton. We'll be back in just a second. Hello, America. The boycotts are gathering steam. To date, I believe there's at least one internet report that we have lost 7,832,000 sponsors. And yet, through the charitable kindness of this network, we're still here. And you know what? Fact is, I haven't felt this good and positive in a long time. Why? Because the boycott attempts are the most transparent AstroTurf attacks I have ever seen or ever heard of. Who is it that currently is launching these efforts against me and this show? Well, let's see here. We have radical union organizer Andy Stern. Say hi to the people, Andy. Hi, Andy. There he is. He's the advisor to the president, the most frequent visitor to the White House, and the Workers of the World Unite anti-capitalist guy. Him, Andy Stern. Then there's the group that Van Jones founded, whose boycott effort now, can we bring up the clock? Here it is in its 251st day. At a boycott. There it is. Former advisor to the president. I'm going to put here for radical 1960s kind of guy. And this is a current communist. Then there is the current spiritual and policy advisor to the president, Jim Wallace. Jim is a Marxist for Jesus. This is such a blatant, also an advisor.